How is everybody doing? Check.
Look at that. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Maybe mid-afternoon. Go see everybody.
Okay. Good evening. The Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee will meet at 7:18, November 4th, 2019. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderwoman Kelly. Here. Alderman Clemmons is here. Alderman Lopez. Alderman Gidge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Also present is Alderman Schmidt and Alderman Jetty.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Public comment. Anyone here that would like to speak to the committee? Okay, none. Communications.
There are none.
Interviews. Okay, Mayor. You have Becky? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We, of course, a few weeks ago created the Animal Advisory Committee for the Animal and Dog Park Advisory Committee to look into the possibility of a dog park downtown. We think we have a location in mind, as well as advise us regarding animal issues generally. And one of the appointments that needs to be made pursuant to the legislation is a representative of the Humane Society. Becky Longvell is that. She's worked for the Humane Society for quite some time, I think about 10 years, and certainly will do a good job in representing their point of view and will help us with the committee. So with that, I give you Becky, who can give a brief statement as to why she's interested in the committee.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Becky Longville. I'm in my 9th year, actually, at the Humane Society for Greater Nashua. My role is the Director of Animal Care Services. So I work a lot with the city when it comes to the community animal issues at times, stray animals, dangerous animals, bite quarantines, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that having a voice from the Humane Society to assist with anything we can assist with for animal issues with the dog park or anything else for the city, we would be glad to, and it's an honor to be asked to do this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Committee, any questions from anyone? None? Well, we thank you for your willingness to volunteer in this new committee that has just been formed, so I'm sure you'll have a lot of input for that. We'll be taking up your nomination later on in the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Cultural Connection, Jessica.
So, Madam Chair, we've had people come for nomination to the Cultural Connections Committee a number of times. Now I've nominated Jessica Gorhan, who I believe is highly qualified for our committee. She's Executive Director of the Greater Nashua Food Council and has extensive experience in the nonprofit sector, both here and elsewhere. She will do, I think, a great job, and her work as in terms of the need for food among all of our Nashua families will be a big asset to the committee, and therefore I'm really pleased to be nominating her, and I want to thank her for her willingness to serve the city of Nashua.
Thank
and with
you.
that, I give you Jessica.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, hi, I've been, we created and co-founded the Greater Nashua Food Council in 2017. It's a collaborative organization made up of community members and other organizations working to improve food access in the city of Nashua through food distribution, food production, nutrition education, and policy work. And I'm honored to be a part of the Cultural Connections Committee. I'm hoping that we'll be able to provide more outreach and really hearing the needs of the community members.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee or others? Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve on the committee. Have you attended any of their meetings?
I
thus
have. I
far?
used to be a program assistant for the City of Nashua's Division of Public Health and Community Services, and I served on the committee in that capacity.
Oh, okay, great.
Anyone else? Well, thank you for your willingness to serve on this committee. I did look at your resume, and it's quite extensive, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the Historic District. Sorry.
Madam Chair, I've nominated Bill Slavinsky for the position of alternate to the Historic District Commission. The Historic District Commission sometimes has trouble getting a quorum of the full members, so it's very important that we get alternates in position so that we can always go forward with a meeting. Bill has extensive experience in involvement previously with the City of Nashua. He was on the Planning Board for 12 years, during which time he was also on the Nashua Historic Commission for 11. He lives adjacent to the Historic District Commission, not actually in it, but right adjacent to it. Is very familiar with the issues that come up in the context of the review of applications within the district. I'm really glad that he's willing to come back, and I'm sure he'll do a very good job working with us as a member of the Historic District Commission.
Okay,
And I'll give you Bill.
thank you.
Hi, good evening. As the mayor has noted, I have served on the Historic District Commission for 10 years in the past, 12 years on the Planning Board. I have lived in Nashua as a full-time citizen for almost 30 years. I have great interest in the Historic District Commission. And when I served, I guess the only complaint I had is I felt the whole time the Historic District did not get the necessary respect from the city. And the respect in that framework is basically in some funding. I think an active, vivacious historic district is a great asset to the city, and I'd like to continue trying to play a part in it. If you have any questions, let me know, please.
Thank you. Any, Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. And thank you to you for your previous service and your willingness to come forward. I'm just interested after 12 or 11 years on the Historic Commission. What was the favorite thing that you got done in that time?
Well, we tried to do some things. You know, there's confusion when I was serving on what exactly was the role of the Historic District Commission. We had half of the commission that thought we were just there to approve an addition or something like that, and the other half of the group sort of fought back and forth that it was our job to promote the district, to expand it, to try to do things beyond just approving some construction. I think a lot more could be done with the district. You got an awful lot to work with. I mean, I live up in North Nashua, and it's a beautiful area, and it would be a shame if something happened to change that area for one reason or another. And there are some historic homes up there that could very easily be broken apart and the lots divided and so forth. So I think it's important that we pay attention up there to that district. What did we get done? I don't know. We approved some stairs. We tried to get Berkeley Street to join the historic district area. And the residents on Berkeley Street, and I am one, said, what's the advantage to us? All we have to do is do applications if we want to do something or not. You guys haven't done anything with street signs. You guys haven't done anything with this, that, and so forth. Why should we join it? So we were never successful in getting Berkeley Street in, although I wanted to.
Interesting.
And it should be in the historic district. When we had Halloween, I guess Saturday, we had to shut our doors after 650 kids.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it is that much of a national treasure as far as trick or treating goes anyhow. But it's a safe street and, the entire area is like that up there. It'd be a shame if anything happened to lose it.
I appreciate your passion for it. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else? Okay, well, we thank you for
Thank you
your
very much.
willingness to come
Have a
back,
nice
and
evening.
hopefully you'll get somewhere. Okay, planning board.
Madam Chair, I'm nominating Larry Hirsch as an alternate member of the Planning Board. Larry has been involved in commercial real estate here in Nashua and elsewhere for a long time. He operates Hirsch and Company. He lives in the South End on Salmon Brook Drive, Ward 8. We need people on the Planning Board who have expertise as we're trying to promote downtown housing, for example, and other developments which are very important assets for the city. And I've known Larry for a long time, and I'm sure he will do a good job. And I look forward to him serving on the planning board.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been actively involved in commercial real estate for quite a few years. I've been in Nashua since 1989. Lived in the South End for the last 25 years. You guys are really interesting times right now. It's exciting. I think there are a lot of opportunities. You're going to change the face of the city, I think, in the coming years. I'd like to be involved in it. I've been watching from a distance, and I figured I should, get myself in here somehow. I think there's plenty that can be done to the city. I think, the economics are right now. The times are right. So you can do this kind of development. I've been through a number of cycles, and we're in a good position right now to go forward. And you've had good luck over the last few years. You put together a lot of really attractive projects.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from members? Alderwoman Kelly.
Happy I'm back, aren't you? Judy?
Yes, I am.
So I appreciate your comments and your background. I was just wondering if you had your druthers, what would you like to see happen? You're saying that it's quite an interesting time, and I do agree with you.
Well, I think what the mayor was talking about, downtown housing, I think is critical. If you can create a synergy, the activity, the day until 8, 9 o'clock at night downtown, I think it's going to do a tremendous amount. It's going to support the restaurants. It's going to support the tax base in general. Right now, you've seen an outflow of office users, for example, because a lot of the office space in the downtown market just isn't economically viable for today's companies. So a lot of the smaller spaces and all just don't work anymore. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities to redevelop a lot of those properties, possibly into housing, possibly into other commercial space. So I think it's just the time.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Well, thank you for your willingness to serve on that. The planning board is a very tedious and long committee to work with. It's long hours. I've sat there and watched them. So we will bring your nomination up later on in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate it. Okay, application to license hawkers, peddlers, vendors.
There's none.
Okay. Appointments by the mayor. Alderman Clemens.
I would move to recommend the confirmation of the appointments of Becky Longville as a member to the Animal and Dog Park Advisory Committee for a term to expire November 12th, 2022. Keith Weirich as member to the Auditorium Commission with a term to expire March 31st, 2021. David Fredette as an alternative to the Conway Ice Rink Commission with a term to expire December 31st, 2023. Patricia Casey and Jason Tilerski, both as members to the Citizens Advisory Commission with terms to expire October 1st, 2022. Beth Quorm Todgam as a member to the Citizens Advisory Commission with a term to expire October 1st, 2021. Jessica Gorin as a member to the Cultural Connections Committee with a term to expire December 31st, 2020. William Slavinsky as an alternative to the Historic District Commission with a term to expire June 30th, 2022. Lawrence Hirsch as an alternative to the planning board with a term to expire March 31st, 2020. Michael Cerrito, Tim Cummings, Eric Druitt, David Fredette, Chris Lewis, Sarah Marchand, Tia Phillips, and Arthur Spilios as members to the Tax Increment Financing Advisory Boards with terms to expire September 30th, 2020.
Okay, you heard the motion. Do we have any questions or comments concerning these appointments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. New business resolutions. There is none.
There is none.
New business ordinance.
Ordinance 19056, updating the Environment and Energy Committee.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I would move to recommend final passage.
Okay, Alderman Clemmons has moved to make final passage of 0-19-056. Do we have any concerns, comments? No one? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, ordinance 0-19-062, prohibiting the use of tobacco products near city-owned buildings and in city parks. Alderman Clemmons?
For the purposes of discussion, I'll move to recommend final passage of 019-062.
Okay. Alderman Clemmons has made a motion to recommend final passage. Discussion. Okay, Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. About a year ago, Ms. Jamie Pinkham brought this up to me, saying that walking through smoke was making her ill when she was walking to the library. And it came to be that a lot of people, meanwhile, had been telling me the same thing. Coming into City Hall was difficult. Open windows with smoke drifting in was difficult. And so we're trying to find a way to minimize the impact on people who smoke, but make it clear that the vast majority of people who don't smoke really would like to be able to breathe fresh air. So if it's all right with you, Ms. Pinkham would like to give a short presentation on what she has decided.
Okay. You may come forward. Sit where the computer is. Please state your name for the record, please, and speak clearly. You can pull the mic to you if you need to. Okay,
My name is Jamie Pinkham.
okay. All right, tell us what you're going to show us.
I'm going to show you a presentation about smoking and secondhand smoke and all that goes with it.
Okay.
If I can get it to play. So as I said, my name is Jamie Pinkham. I've been a nurse at Dartmouth Hitchcock in Nashua since 2011. I'm nearly finished my master's in nursing informatics. I believe our goal in healthcare as healthcare professionals is to aid our patients to achieve their best health. So in the course of my master's program, I was asked to identify a healthcare concern in my area. Have you ever walked through a cloud of smoke to get into a building? I've done so multiple times on occasions going to the public library for a meeting. Some of my friends also identified that they have noticed smoking immediately outside the back door of City Hall as well. So looking into this topic, I found that there were many negative effects from secondhand and thirdhand smoke. The Center for Disease Control reports that 1 in 4 non-smokers in the U.S. are exposed to secondhand smoke. While doing my research, I discovered that no amount of secondhand smoke is safe. So even a little bit that we breathe in can impact health. Smoking immediately outside of buildings can drift in and nullify smoke-free policies. The Center for Disease Control also notes that secondhand smoke also contributes to many diseases such as stroke, lung cancer, and coronary artery disease in adults, as well as asthma, acute respiratory infections, sudden infant death in children. So this is the Nashua Public Library. I don't know if you can see their moat area is covered with cigarette butts. So this smoking outside of the public library is a deterrent for the use of the library. There's also a risk of third-hand smoke. Third-hand smoke can also be a concern when people encounter cigarette litter, which still contains the harmful chemicals of cigarettes. As you've noticed from the picture before, the library's full of cigarette butts around the outside. This is dangerous not only for children, but also I read a practice where homeless individuals were reusing cigarettes for smoking. This is a vehicle for transmission of disease and could be much more harmful than the initial smoking. This is the Le Parc de Notre Renaissance Française. It's a cute little park by the river. Unfortunately, the flowers are littered with cigarette butts. Well, I visited this park the other day. I found these cigarettes underneath the bench as well, the remnants of a smoking pipe. My proposal, given these facts, my proposal is to eliminate the smoking outside of public buildings. There's a precedent in other cities. Lebanon, New Hampshire has a policy in place which prohibits smoking 30 feet outside of public buildings, libraries, and the majority of their public parks. Manchester last year passed a ban on smoking in city parks as well. Eliminating it citywide might have better adherence to places like the library. And with it, it would give power to stop the occurrence with their teeth behind it versus the non-smoking kind of campus that the library has. Other towns and cities, my help if sorry. Other towns and cities in our state have adopted a smoke-free policy, including 9 towns in the Keene area. Also, in Massachusetts, there's a ban on smoking in public places, which includes smoking outside of windows and doors in public places. There are many benefits for a smoke-free policy. Non-smokers would no longer be exposed to dangerous secondhand smoke. Exposure to chemicals of spent cigarettes would be limited. Children would no longer be shown the model of smoking, which may prevent them smoking later in life. Other than the before stated facts, there's also some side benefits. Eliminating all smoking outside in public parks may eliminate some marijuana being used in our public parks and other smoking, like vaping. Another added benefit is safety benefit, which would discourage congregating outside of public doors. So the city of Nashua is trying to bring people in to the downtown area. With events, cigarette smoke is a deterrent for some. If we were trying to bring people into our public places, shouldn't we try to welcome as many as possible? Other than aesthetically, it is also a risk of fire from cigarettes. Fire can lead to the damage to public areas, causing financial loss that need to be repaired. So in conclusion, there are many health risks associated with the inhalation of secondhand smoke. There's also many benefits to its elimination. I propose eliminating from outside public building as modeled by Lebanon and other places. Don't we deserve to breathe clean air outside of public places? And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Smith, did you want to add to this? Because this is your...
I can tell you that the health department has been working with us for a year on this. They're excited about the opportunity to limit smoking in certain areas because they have had complaints about asthma attacks being stimulated by breathing smoke on the way into various places and out of. There also is a question about transmission of hepatitis, which was one of the very important issues that the health department's been dealing with lately. And apparently you can get it from a used cigarette. We also worry about children picking up tobacco. It's highly toxic, especially for children. And outside a library, a child runs ahead of their mother. They pick up a cigarette, put it in their mouth like 2-year-olds do. It can happen, and it would be a shame. So we're looking for some way to, and I can also tell you this, I've received a lot of calls on this, that it's a really good idea for the city. I know it'll be difficult, and I know that we probably want to make a few changes in it, but I'd appreciate everyone's consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, comments, concerns from committee members? Anyone? Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we should table this to hear from the other sponsors who could not be here, one of whom is also a committee member.
Okay. Any committee member want to hold? Alderman
Clem.
Kelly?
Trish?
Sorry. I was wondering who the other sponsor was. I wasn't sure if it was Alderman Lopez or Alderman Clee.
Both.
I was trying to pull it up.
Alderman Clee.
It's both.
Oh, and, yes, and,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought, Joanne Alderman Lopez. Especially if you're talking about making some amendments to this, well, you were looking to make some amendments because there's an amendment that was put on our desk this evening. So has everyone been made aware of it, that we're the original sponsors?
I didn't see the amendment, I don't think.
Oh,
Was
okay.
Was it from Alderman Jettie?
No, this came from legal.
Desk.
This came from legal.
Oh, those would be from legal that we put together last week. So yes, that's the new language that we would like.
Okay, so so all the sponsors were aware of the
Yes.
changes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well,
Do we want me to pass these out? They were extra copies.
yeah, if you would like, the committee members were supposed to have gotten one, but maybe not.
Thank you.
I have one already.
I don't have one. Thank you.
You could give one too. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Do you have something to say? Oh, okay. I see that Director Ms. Kleiner is here and would like to speak concerning this ordinance. Please sit. And is someone from Nashua PD also
Yes.
willing to? Okay.
Yes. So, good
Please state your
evening.
name.
Director Kim Kleiner from Administrative Services. So certainly, while no one can argue the benefits to such legislation, there was some concerns voiced today from Administrative Services. So currently, if there is a problem outside of City Hall, mainly around this building, or it could be any other building, our risk department is the one that someone would bring that attention to. And risk then would contact the National Police Department if an ordinance is being broken. So the concern is, if there is someone smoking outside of City Hall and this actually has a penalty attached to it, what is the board's expectation of us here at City Hall? Is it for risk to contact the police department? and ask them to come over and issue a fine for anyone that's smoking. And not only would that include around City Hall, you commonly see it out on the side of the building, you see it at transit, people waiting for the buses. So we just want to be clear on what the expectation of us is, and make it understood that we have limited resources within the risk department, as I'm sure does the police department. So that's our concerns, and we'd just like to make sure that the expectations of us is clear so that we can certainly uphold anything the board would wish.
Okay. Would the officer like to come up first, and then I'll ask questions, especially of one of the sponsors? Thank you. Please take a seat.
Thank you.
And give us your name, please. Thank you for coming.
Sure. My name is Christopher DiTullio, and I'm a sergeant with Nashua PD.
Okay. So I know that the police department is supposed to keep control of the laws and legislation that we put through, but obviously there's always concerns when there's laws brought in that seem out of the ordinary.
Sure.
So why don't you give us your feeling as to how this would transpire if someone was caught smoking out front of City Hall?
Sure. So for that, I mean, obviously the particular example of smoking outside City Hall, after speaking with the chief this afternoon about this, the way that the proposed ordinance is written, it kind of puts, it's a little difficult for us to enforce because of the way that it's written when walking from place to place. So basically, if someone was standing out front of City Hall on the sidewalk and they were smoking, but they were walking back and forth, there's kind of, it's open to interpretation of whether or not that's actually a violation of the ordinance. Now, if someone was sitting on City Hall steps and smoking a cigarette, obviously that would be pretty cut and dry. But as far as one of the other concerns we had is, individuals who are smoking in a public park, like it was provided, so someone walking down the rail trail or, watching a baseball game at Greeley Park would also be a violation of this city ordinance. So that, obviously, just based on the language that's in it, it'd be difficult for us to enforce right now.
Okay. So Alderman Schmidt, have your group thought about this? And then,
Yes, actually, we had, originally, we had just suggested signs around the city building, far enough out so that people would be able to have passed them before inhaling their smoke again. Alderman Klee had a requirement from one of her constituents saying there were people smoking near the swings. And it was really upsetting the parents who wanted to be there with their kids. And they did notice that there were cigarette butts on the ground, and it was wrong. And so we'd like to be able to sign places like that saying there is no smoking here. So the parent would have an option of saying, hello, there's someone here who is smoking, could you please? And then we would expect the police to do no more than just say, this is a no smoking area, and perhaps this is your warning. Please don't do it again. The idea of limiting it to all of the places where children play seemed like a really good idea. It's hard to put in the ordinance, but I think maybe we could do a change to make sure that that fits. As far as, having the risk department do anything about this, I'm not sure that it would really come to you. I think it would be a more complaint from a citizen who would simply call the police and say, there's somebody annoying us on the front step by smoking. If you think that there's some way that we could say this better, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about it.
yes,
So
Director Klein.
commonly, if there is any activity surrounding City Hall, at the parking garage next door, at the transit station, that is brought to the risk department. If the expectation was that we would not have to enforce this, that's fine. Certainly, we would not want to, and we generally don't send our people out to enforce laws. We would call the police department if a law was being broken on city property. And this would in fact be a law, an ordinance that we would feel necessary to enforce.
Alderman Jettie,
Could I ask Ms. Kleiner a question?
certainly.
So I think currently the smoking is prohibited inside the city hall. So why do you feel that prohibiting smoking outside city hall would be more of a problem within 30 feet of the building? Why would that be more of a problem than enforcing the rule against smoking inside city hall?
So currently, no one's smoking inside City Hall. Certainly, I can say that that would be very rare that we've ever had to stop someone from smoking within City Hall. It's pretty accepted, and it may become over time that this is as accepted. But I would think that there's going to be at least some sort of initial period. And I just want to make sure that I'm aware and that Risk is aware of what your expectation is. If there is someone sitting on the side bench of City Hall smoking, are you asking us to enforce this and call the police department? We just want to make sure that we're doing what the board wishes.
Alderman Jettie?
Well, I think, as you point out, since this would be an ordinance, it's not, I don't think I don't think the courts enforce what the committee may be thinking when it writes this ordinance. You know, it doesn't ask the committee members what were they thinking, what are their expectations. Whatever the ordinance, if it's passed, whatever the words in the ordinance say is what courts would, I would think the police department and the courts would be expected to enforce what the ordinance says, whatever that may end up being.
Okay. Did you have a response? Okay. Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. I certainly agree that, around playgrounds, actually Alderman Clee discussed this with me a little bit before it came out, that she mentioned that this was being worked on, and she used the example of the playground, and I actually agree with that. I think that there are certain areas where we should set the expectation that smoking should not be done in these areas. But to me, the way that this is written right now is it's too broad of an ordinance to just say that, a city building or to say, any city park. If I'm in the middle of the woods in Mines Falls, the last thing I want is for, and I would think that the police department would feel the same way, is a officer on a bike stopping me because I'm smoking a cigarette in the woods. It's just not, I think that there's a better use of resources, which we have limited. But I think that there is also a balance that we can find where there are areas where children are present, that we can do a better job protecting them. And so I guess I would like to see this amended further, to get a little bit more specific and perhaps get some more input from the Parks Department and of where those areas are, so that they can be pinpointed, and maybe make the 30 feet, cut that in half on the city buildings. I mean, and maybe even make it specific city buildings, because I don't think that this would be something that we would want to try to enforce in like a parking garage, for example. So, I think that, I think it's a great idea in concept, and I think I think with a little working, I think we can come up with something that really gets to the intent, which I believe would hopefully be to try to protect as many people as possible, but it would also balance the rights of other people, and make the city a healthier place.
Alderman Kelly, Alderman Gedge, and then Director.
I know we've already talked about potentially making some changes, but I am confused by the language in 163. One of the things that the presentation pointed out was that it is pervasive in the library, but it seems to me that the way B is written, the library would not be included. Is that the case?
Right, because the library has a board of
Right.
trustees that
Right.
have to approve it, just like Public Works,
So
School
this wouldn't
Department,
even
all of
address
those,
that
so,
unless they chose to do it, correct?
right,
Okay.
okay. Alderman Gedge.
Yes, is it agreed that we should table this?
Well, after we have this conversation, I'm going to bring that. Okay. Director
So,
Klein.
I mean, I think the presentation spoke for itself. And it is important that people can walk into city buildings without having to walk through cigarette smoke. Just a suggestion that maybe we put signs at our doorways. So, certainly by both of our doors, by the door out back, which I understood has been a problem, and I've seen it. So that we're limiting where people smoke, and we have people smoking at a far enough distance away from our doorways where other people that are walking through that area are not affected.
Alderman Kelly.
I don't remember what committee, but there was a woman who came forward for money for beautification, and one of the things she wanted to do was, I don't know what you call them, receptacles for
Ashtray.
Carolyn?
Ashtray.
standing ashtrays.
ashtrays.
That's a great. Those things. So I'm just wondering if we know where that came from, because I was thinking similarly, like if there were spots that people knew they could go put their cigarettes after smoking, we might be able to draw them away without necessarily saying 30 feet.
So I think there is a real need to table this and have the sponsors of this meet with the people who would have to enforce it, which is the police department, talking to administration, because you're talking primarily of this building and maybe one or two others, but I know the library is a concern, but we can't enforce this on the library. We can't enforce it for Public Works or the schools, which they already have anyway. So I think that it needs a little tweaking. I will tell you this, they tried to do this in Concord for the beaches and playgrounds, and it was voted down because there was no way law enforcement's going to be able to follow up on that. And if you have somebody outside that's smoking and I call the police, by the time they get here, that person's long gone, because you're not going to you're not going to, handcuff them until the police come. So you really have to look at that, I think you really need to look at that as a group and come back. We all want our community to be healthy and beautiful and not have this stuff around, but we also have to consider the people that have to enforce this and others that have to work on this. So would you like to amend? Oh, Alderman Clemmons, I'm sorry.
I actually just want to make one more comment too.
Certainly.
When we're thinking about this, there are certainly outdoor spaces beyond just like playgrounds and things like that. Like, for example, in front of the Greeley Park band shell, would be a great place to designate a non-smoking area.
It would.
You know, but again, like, what I hope is, and hopefully I can work with you and some of the other sponsors, but what I hope is we don't just make this collective ban that it's everywhere, because I think that is a little overzealous, and I think, quite frankly, I don't think it would work, as well as designating specific areas. I think will work much better.
Alderman Schmidt.
Not to mention the cost of all the signs.
Right.
Yes.
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 We don't
just
need,
about-
we don't need the $10,000 bill for these signs,
Yep.
but I think you're right. I think if we limit and we specify, I think we can make this work. Some towns, cities even have specific places where you're allowed to smoke. And those are noted. And that might be something that, it maybe not in this one, but in the next iteration, we can look at that. Thank you very much for your consideration on this.
Like your home. You can smoke in your home, Alderman
No.
Clemmons.
No. Alderman Clement.
I would, although I know there are amendments, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to table 019-062.
Okay, so you heard the motion to table, recommending table 0-19062. Any more questions concerning that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. And I thank you both for coming and stating your concerns. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, not tabled in committee? Nothing? Discussion? Public comment? Remarks by Alderman. Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone to go out and vote tomorrow. The election is tomorrow, Tuesday, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And, please exercise your constitutional right to vote. It's very important.
Thank you. Okay. Any other remarks by Alderman? Okay. No non-public? Alderman Clemmons.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, Alderman Clemmons made a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Nobody. Okay, we are adjourned at 8:05. Thank you, everyone.
That was great. Thank you.